All right, we are recording. I'll go ahead and log in to CyberQ. That's my leg. You're sharpening your claws on, cat. Oh, stop. Let me share the screen. I'm not sure how well that's going to share. Can you guys see that okay? We'll see if it actually shares the environment or if I have to shut down and reshare. I understand. Yes, Bitdefender, stop. Apparently, I have to tell Bitdefender to stop being. Yes, add it to. Apparently, I get to restart that one. So, which is funny because I've been through this a couple of times today and it just now decided that it didn't like it. All right, let's see if it actually launches. If it doesn't, I will shut down my.
I do have a question regarding the labs.
Yeah, go ahead.
Have you had any trouble with running out of time or running really close to the time limit?
Yeah, close to the time limit, but that was because the first time, I think I'm gonna have to shut down my. We may have to have someone else log in here because apparently I may have to shut my stuff down. Is there someone else that wouldn't mind logging into CyberQ for me and having a share the screen? But yeah, you can run close. The thing that I had an issue with on it when I first started using it was it wasn't particularly clear on where I was supposed to go to do stuff. That's why I was going to show you guys what to click on. So if there's someone that wouldn't mind being a quick guinea pig, I will give you guys some extra credit points if someone doesn't mind.
Yeah, I'll volunteer.
Okay, so it's on multi-share, so go ahead and do that, and then just open up the very first one. Okay, yeah, go to that module 2.
Oh, I see. Sorry, German.
He beat you to it. It's not going to be a ton of extra credit, don't worry. But if I see that you guys are having problems, don't worry. I believe in grade curving, and the way that I grade these, you see how they have flags, 33 flags. That's how many points I base those on. Okay, so there's 33 points. So your other assignments are actually worth more point wise. These are worth more experience wise. So go ahead and hit play. They do suggest you use, was it Chrome and Firefox?
Like the 4 major default ones, it looks like.
Yeah. And I would suggest that you stick with their recommendations. And it can take a second. I will say that the first time I got on this, it went through really fast, but it was like 10 or 11 at night. And I got through a lot faster. So keep that in mind. It did do this to me though. It's just for the first bit. Although today when I was using it, I don't know if it's just because I had a bunch of people on, or I think it might also be because Bitdefender is a little bit more Nazi-esque with my security settings than I want it to be. And I'm probably going to have to uninstall it and put something else on so I can tell it not to do that. But we'll see. Yeah, that's what I had on there previously. I use Bitdefender for my other things, but Avera, when I have to use security tools and things like that, I can tune it down quite a bit. But Bitdefender's good if you don't want anything to mess with stuff. But Avera is good if you have enough know-how to Avast and Avera. Yeah, I know it takes a second. And it'll say, you know, it's creating it, and then it'll there. Okay, so then you hit launch. And I just wanted to show you what it took me a second to learn, because these are set up differently than Test Out and Cengage Labs. I will tell you that it literally walks you through. No, so it has an issue with it too. Mine, well, anyway, I'll just show you where stuff is. Click on that left panel, you'll see flags. That's where it's the stuff that you have to turn in. Click the one that says virtual machine in the middle. This is where you switch between the machines. I did not see that because I was tired at first. Click on the instructions, because if you scroll down, keep scrolling. It's quite a ways down. There you go. Keep going down. Okay, so it says click this to switch to a Windows 11. And I didn't realize, because it doesn't say click virtual machines first. So I was over on trying to click the Control-Alt-Delete over on the other screen. And no, you have to go to virtual machines. Come here, kitty. Apparently I need a mascot tonight. You have to click on virtual machines first. Then you can switch between the machines. That actually screwed up my flags when I was messing with it the first time, because I didn't realize, because they didn't specifically put that in there. And if you're tired, sometimes you don't catch those. So when it goes down, if you scroll down, just keep scrolling down a little bit. It'll walk you all the way through. Okay, wait, go up a little bit more. Okay, and then it says you have to type in this. That's your advanced search that it wants you to do. Keep going down. Okay, now hold on a second. Keep going down. There's one that, okay, up just a little bit. Okay, the page appears displaying the PDF file as shown in the screenshot. That is, if you click on the flags, use advanced Google, blah, 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 enter complete URL. And I tried to copy and paste from those machines over there, and it just gave me the finger. So I don't know if it was just it didn't like that, or if it was because, when you try to do copy and paste from virtual machines over, it just doesn't like it. So it screwed up my initial flags. But if you just look at it and type it in, it seems to work better. And I know that sucks, but I just wanted to give you that little piece of advice so you don't mess up your flags. So and from what I can see, you can go all the way through and you can do these. And then I think you can redo them. It just makes you go all the way through the assignment first, and then you can redo them.
If there are other technical issues in future labs where we try to do something like that, where it's just, silly, if we clear it up with you, and if multiple other people have the same issue, is it something you can
screenshot it? Like when you're getting this, screenshot it. If you run into any lab issues, this is my advice, screenshot it so I can see it. Because I can send that to our rep and be like, dude, this is what my people are saying, because I didn't get this at all yesterday. And two, I can give you guys, I can tell my chair and other people, if they're like, well, you're giving your people too much time to do the labs, I can be like, this is why. And I have empirical data showing them it's not us, it's not you. You guys aren't unrealistically asking for more stuff. You legitimately had technical issues, just like getting your books mailed out with your stuff. Right. Yeah. It's literally right there on your screenshot. So screenshot that, stick it in a folder, save it. You don't know if it's going to mess you up later. So anytime you run into an issue like that, that is my advice. take a snip, take a screenshot. And if it messes up your time or your flags or causes any other issues with that, and you feel like, hey, this messed me up, and I feel like I have a legitimate need for more time on this because of this, then I am willing to extend, because this is an extremely difficult class. All right. And on those, if you run out of time, I think you can redo it if you run out of time. And that way you'll know for the next. Yeah, and I've run into that too. And you'll know for the next. Try accept risk and continue. Did it let you?
I was gonna do it in another browser.
Okay. But yeah, if it keeps giving you errors, like I was using Chrome and it gave me that error. Now at least it goes to a different. Well, that's new, because you should not be asked that at all. I don't know if you use a what do you call it? A password manager.
I do not for.
Well, I meant for CyberQ.
No.
So yeah. Yeah, if it runs you, I would do a history clear. You don't have to do that right now. We'll go ahead and head into lecture, but the next time that you have this issue, because by the time you go back to this lab, it'll probably drop your time down and you'll be able to restart this. So Nick, let me know because I used you as my guinea pig, let me know if you have any problems with this one. Okay.
And if this issue persists, because I mean, it says, it's the website certificate.
Yeah, that is not you guys. That is them.
Yeah,
and I will do me a favor and send me that screenshot, and I'll screenshot mine too. And then I'll send it to yeah. Yeah, and anybody who runs into this, like I said, if you go out and you're doing this tonight, screenshot it so I can be like, dude, this is, this was not there. Oh yeah. And I will tell you that is something. Okay, let me see. The finish this lab option, you don't have to do that, but you can do, this is what I did with test out. I hit, and I'll do it to mine so you don't mess up your lab. You can go ahead and just exit out of this. When I did mine, I hit finish lab, and I'll have to check to see if it does this with ours, but it would actually say, hey, that's great, here's what you got wrong. So, and I don't know if this will work with this one because I have not tried the EC Council version of these labs since versions before 12. So you can always try. I'm going to try and see if it'll do the same thing. What I did was I went in and immediately failed it, because it would say, hey, this is what you got wrong. Here's some hints for how to do it right. And then I just screenshotted everything and went back, because it was easier, because it actually gave you better instructions than the original instructions. But it worked faster for me that way. So if you're having problems, I will check and make sure it doesn't mess you guys up. But I believe that you guys have, that you guys can try to do that. But let me try that on mine first and make sure that you can just go in and fail it and see what it does. Because it's possible that you can go in and fail it and it'll just be like, meh. But if you're partway through and you feel like, I'm just gonna, I've got 10 minutes left, but these are all the correct ones that I've gotten, screenshot your correct answers, fail it, go back and do it again. There are ways around it to make it easier on yourself. Okay, so I'm gonna stop your participant sharing. Thank you for being the guinea pig.
Of course.
All right, so that is what's what on that. Let me ask you guys, does anybody not have their stuff yet, their codes? I'll tell you what, if you don't want to say on here, send me a message if it hasn't gotten to you yet. I just need to know if anyone's stuff was lost in the mail by FedEx or anything like that, so that I can ask for any special circumstances if that happens. So just let me know, okay? So tonight, let me exit out of the couple of things that are going to start dinging like crazy in the background before I get my slides open. Oh, one other thing. I had them run the stuff for your, I'll give someone else a chance for, let me write down here so that I can give you. No, I don't want to update. Okay, Nick. Is there someone else, first come, first serve, extra credit? Who was it that said they wanted it last time? Was it German? German, do you want to be my next guinea pig? This is not for CyberQ, it's for the Hyper-V servers. Anyone? Anyone? Okay, is there anyone near a computer that wants to? No, you're cool. I just wanted to give you first chance at it because you had asked previously. Anyone that wants a cup 10 points extra credit that's willing to go try and log into their server. Because I had them run the scripts, and it should be your username and password that you previously, Gwen, go for it. Should be your username and password that you last used, and it's the same server that you were using before. I had them run them on the same numbers. And I had them push some files out in a different spot. So we have, and cross our fingers. I don't think it got this far last time, so I'm hoping that means. No, kitty, I don't want to fight on top of the laptop. Come on. No, 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 no. Did it freeze or just go to a new screen, Glenn? Does it look like it's going to let you through? Yes. All right. Fantastic. Okay, so everyone should be able to log in. If you can open up your, go to your files, to your, where is it online? I think it's under the C drive. Let me see. This PC local ISO should have your server 2019. And then they also, anyway, so there's a couple. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry I touched you, Grumpy Torty. Oh my goodness. Oh, so the ISO folder's in the same spot. It has the 2019 server 2019. And then if you go under users and then public, you'll see there's an ISO for the eval version of Windows 10 for you guys to use as well. And then you should be able to download Kali for us to use, and we'll play with that on Friday. Okay, so now that we've got that, I will get into, let me go and get into our module 3 here. All right, so we are doing, can you guys see that one okay? Yep. All right, good. We are going to be doing scanning networks tonight. So these are our learning objectives. So explain network scanning concepts, use various network scanning tools, demonstrate scanning techniques for different things, and then network scanning countermeasures. All right, so overview of network scanning. Network scanning refers to a set of procedures used for identifying hosts, ports, and services in a network. Network scanning is one of the components of intelligence gathering, which can be used by an attacker to create a profile of the target organization. And then they have a little graphic that's send TCP/IP probes, and then they're getting information from the network. So the objectives of network scanning: discover live hosts, IP address, and open ports of live hosts, discover operating system and system architecture, discover services running on hosts, and discover vulnerabilities in live hosts. TCP communication flags. Now, these were always difficult for me to remember at first. So this, I like this little, the way they've got this little slide set up. In fact, I think I'm just gonna stick this one in my special folder here so I can remember. Okay, so the URG is urgent. Data contained in the packet should be processed immediately. Finish. There will be no further transmissions. RST is reset. That resets your connection. PSH, push, sends all buffer data immediately. ACK, acknowledgement. So do you remember the ACK, SYN-ACK one that we were talking about for the three-way handshake previously? That's it right there. That's acknowledgement. Acknowledges receipt of a packet. SYN, synchronize, initiates a connection between hosts. And you can see over here on the right, you have exactly where your TCP flags are in a packet. And this is an example of TCP IP communications. So the left one on the left is TCP session establishment, or the three-way handshake. So the very first one is, I would like to talk with you. So you have your SYN, and then you have SYN-ACK, and then ACK. And that's how I always remember SYN, ACK. That is actually something I've seen on multiple text questions. Oh my goodness. Test questions for CEH and other certification exams. So be aware of that one. TCP session termination. Guys, would you stop with the helping? FIN, ACK, FIN, ACK. So I'm done. Okay, I received your termination request. I've received everything. Okay, thanks. So those are just graphical representations of what that means. Okay. Nmap. We are actually going to be using this one in next week's lab. So this is a scanning tool. Network administrators can use Nmap for inventorying a network, managing service upgrade schedules, and monitoring host or service uptime. Attackers use Nmap to extract information like live hosts on networks, open ports, services, application name and version, types of packet filters, firewalls, as well as operating systems and versions used. And this is ZenMap that they've got over here. It is just a graphical there's Nmap and ZenMap is just has a GUI attached to it. That's the only difference. Then there's HPing3. This one's a command line scanning, network scanning and packet crafting tool. It can be used for network security auditing and firewall testing, manual path MTU discovery, advanced traceroute, remote OS fingerprinting, remote uptime guessing, and TCP IP stack auditing. So you can see down here they're using Parrot, and they're doing HPing3. Sorry, you hear random canned air. That's my Kitty, stay away from the laptop because squirt bottle plus laptop is no bueno. So anyway, HP space -1, and then you have your IP address. The switches that you see, you'll see a -A, -P. P is port 80, so that one's asking. I would have to look because I can't remember what -A is. But you're setting your parameters here, and you're scanning that for that particular IP address. I think, yes, okay, cool, we have it on here. So this is an ICMP ping, so that first one that we saw with the -1. Then the ACK scan, that one's getting an ACK scan on port 80, that was the other one that was on there. UDP scan on port 80, collecting initial sequence numbers, firewall and timestamp, SYN scan, fin push, ERG scan entire subnet for live hosts, intercept all traffic, and then SID flooding a victim. Now these go in order of, basically in order of how much you're likely to be detected. So the more stuff that you put on there, the more likelihood it's going to show up for someone. Yeah, I believe HTTP is port 80 is HTTP. Yeah, 80. Good call. Metasploit. I love Metasploit. It's on Kali. Metasploit is an open source project that provides infrastructure, content, and tools to perform penetration tests and security auditing. So Metasploit is an entire suite. It's not one or two things. There are tons of different things. It comes preloaded on Kali, and there are a lot of different things that you can also load into it later. Yeah, did I give you guys the free book on? I mean, it's free because I purchased it. Did I give you guys the book on using Metasploit with Kali? You guys remember seeing that? Okay. I will repost that if I haven't. I think I might have a couple of them because Metasploit can be very difficult, but there are some really cool things that you can do. The only thing I will warn you about with Metasploit is make sure you are using it where you are allowed to use it, because it is very, very easy to do some bad stuff with Metasploit on accident. So make sure you're testing in a lab environment, or you're testing against things that say that you can break them, okay? NetScan Tools Pro. This one assists attackers in automatically or manually listing your IPv4, 6 addresses, host names, domain names, and URLs. It's got a nice little graphic there for you to use. And on Metasploit, as you can see, this one's command line. So it looks like it's in. Yeah, you don't want to do that. You get a nice little knock on your, yeah, you can do it on your home network. What I used to do is because they allowed me to do this at my previous job because it was considered training. They would allow me to segment out a little practice network. And when they had the little cruddy old lab machines and stuff, I would set 1 or 2 of them up and just tear them apart, and then reset them and tear them apart. You know, it's a lot of fun that way. And you can get some of those little tiny, yeah, you don't want a knock on the door and some shiny bracelets. You don't want to do that. And you don't want to get sent to the room where you hug yourself all day. I don't want to call about how they got that. Yeah, Raspberry Pi. You can set that up. I have a little Raspberry Pi, and you know, you can mess around. There's some really cool little things you can do that with. If you want multiple little computers, you can go out on eBay and get some of the old ones, or sometimes you can even find them at DI in different places. A lot of times they don't know what they have. So go out and find you something that you can mess around and tear apart and play with. I mean, that's how I learned computers in the first place, was my mentor just basically put an old one together and said, go, you know, and there's no substitution for that. If you want to learn hardware, I should put the caveat there, it's hardware. Some of these you'll see, I'll show you the lab that we're doing next week. There are some websites and things out there meant for things like Nmap and ZenMap, like Hack This Site, where you are supposed to go out and be allowed to practice against them. Okay, host discovery techniques. These are techniques used to identify active and live systems. So there's ARP ping scan, UDP scan, ICMP, TCP, IP protocol ping scan. And as you can see, we have our nice little map out here. So after the ICMP ping scan, you can also do the ICMP echo ping, ICMP timestamp ping, and then ICMP address mask ping. And then you can also do an ICMP echo ping sweep. On TCP ping scan, you can do TCP SYN and a TCP ACK ping. Here are some more. You can do an ARP ping scan. These are Nmap commands. There are entire cheat sheets for Nmap. Nmap's a lot of fun. Nmap and ZenMap. ZenMap is a good one if you want to use the GUI. I mean, they work pretty much the same way, but I suggest using Nmap because a lot of the times, especially in cert exams, they ask you what these mean. So if all you know how to do is the click, you don't know what SNPR, when I took the cert exam, it actually asked what those switches meant. So be aware. Okay. ICMP echo ping, here's how to do those. And then here's some other stuff. And you can see some examples over here and see what I mean about you can just click on it and it does that, which is great when you're first playing around with it. But if you want to learn what those switches actually mean, you got to do them. Ping sweep tools. So there's Angry IP Scanner. So this pings each IP address to check if any of them are live. Then you can optionally resolve host names and determine MAC address scans, ports, or etc. And then there's NetScan, SolarWinds. There's a whole bunch of different people that have ping testing stuff that you can use. Okay. Port scanning techniques. So this is, they're categorized by the type of protocol. So remember when we had to do that whole sheet with the different ports and stuff, this kind of goes along with that. So TCP scanning, and you'll see it kind of snakes over here, open TCP scanning, and then TCP connect for a full open scan. UDP scanning. Sorry, I didn't realize that one. Stealth TCP, third party, and spoof TCP. There's a ton of TCP stuff because that's where a lot of information comes from. You can do a half open scan, an inverse TCP, an at flag probe, Xmas scan, fin, null, Maimon scan, TTL based scan, and Windows scan. They call it a Christmas scan. There's lots of other things, but most of the network admins I know say it's called a Christmas scan because it lights everything up when the person sees it coming in. It's not a passive scan. Definitely, yeah, it is very intrusive. That is an excellent point, Nick. Yeah, that's why, I mean, it lights everything up like a Christmas tree is what I was told initially. And there's other people that have said, no, that's not why they named it that way. Well, it may not be, but that is what it does. SSDP scanning and then IPv6 scanning. And you can see that there are some cookie echo scanning and some other things down here as well. All right, here are the Nmaps for what these mean. And you'll see the switches right there. No, I don't want to add, but this is your TCP Connect, Stealth Scan, Inverse TCP, Christmas, Thin, Null, TCP Manon, ACK, TTL-based ACK, Windows-based ACK, idle IPID header, UDP, SCTP, SCTP cookie echo scan. So as you can see, there's a ton of them you can do. Okay. Do I have a question? SSDP and list scans. So SSDP is Simple Service Discovery Protocol, and it's a network protocol that works in conjunction with UPnP to detect plug-and-play devices. So vulnerabilities in UPnP might allow attackers to launch the buffer overflow or DOS attacks, and the attackers can use the UPnP SSDP mSearch information discovery tool. Let's just add all the acronyms to check if the machine is vulnerable to UPnP exploits or not. You can see down here, it's kind of hard to read, but that is them using that particular scan to work on that. This type of scan simply generates and prints a list of... Whoa. My cat found my air duster. Or on one tonight. I did not know that she could stand on it long enough and just stare at it to turn it on without actually pinging them. Reverse DNS resolution is performed to identify the host name, and you can see ZenMap down there with that. Okay, IPv6 scans. This increases the IP address from, as we remember, 32 to 128 for more levels of address hierarchy. That means attackers need to harvest IPv6 addresses from network traffic, record logs received from header lines in archived emails. Attackers can use the -6 option in ZenMap. Don't hit me. I know you don't like it. In ZenMap to perform the IPv6 scanning. So knock it off. Apparently you guys are going to get a lecture and a show this evening. I apologize. So as you can see here, we have nmap-6 scan me nmap.org, and nmap.org, that website right there, is something that they allow to be used as, like I said, there are certain websites out there for people to play around with because they have Nmap. It's one of their tools. They keep that up so that people can use it to learn on. Service version discovery. Service version detection helps the attacker to obtain information about running services and their versions on a target system. Obtaining an accurate service version number allows attackers to determine the vulnerability of target systems to particular exploits. In ZenMap, it's -SV, and that's used for service version. Some of them don't make sense when it comes to the switches, but that one's actually quite nice. Okay, Nmap scan time reduction. In Nmap, performance and accuracy can be achieved by reducing scan timing. You can omit non-critical tests, optimize timing parameters, separate and optimize UDP scans, upgrade Nmap, execute concurrent Nmap instances, scan from a favorable network location, and increase available bandwidth and CPU time. Those are just some options to give you better variables. OS discovery and banner grabbing. Okay. Banner grabbing or OS fingerprinting is the method used to determine the operating system running on a remote target system. There are two types of banner grabbing, like everything else, active and passive. Identifying the operating system used on the target host allows the attacker to figure out vulnerabilities possessed by the system and the exploits that might work on a system to further carry out additional attacks. So active banner grabbing These are specially crafted packets that are sent to the remote OS, and the responses are noted. Responses are then compared to a database to determine the operating system. Responses from different OSs vary due to differences in the TCP/IP stack implementation. Then there's banner or passive banner grabbing. This is banner grabbing from error messages. Error messages provide information such as type of server, OS, SSL tool used by the target remote system. There's sniffing network traffic. Capturing and analyzing packets from the target enables an attacker to determine operating system used by the remote system. And then there's banner grabbing from page extensions. Looking for an extension in the URL may assist in determining the application's version. So ASP.X, that means it's an IIS server and a Windows platform. Okay, here's some question. So you were asking about SB. I am not sure if that's, let me look at it.
I'm thinking active because it's
I
directly
think,
working.
yeah, because it's actually scanning it. Not, yeah, that would be active. If it's just pulling stuff in, then it's not.
Because yeah, then SL, like
Yeah,
Mark
but
was saying, I'm
since it's
unsure 'cause-
actively sending something out, then yeah, it is active.
Okay.
Okay. Here is some examples on how to identify target systems. So you can identify the OS running on the target machine by looking at the time or TTL and the TCP window size, believe it or not, in the IP header of the first packet in a TCP section. The sniff, you can do the sniff capture, the response generated from the target machine using packet sniffing tools like Wireshark, and observe the TTL and TCP window size fields. So they're kind of small, but they've got the parameters outlined here, and this one might link up to a Windows. This one links up to Linux, and you can see down here or over here on the right, it's got the TTL and TCP windows, and which are known variables and are posted all over the place. OS discovery with Nmap and Unicorn scan. I was not sure how to pronounce it at first. Sometimes I tend to run words together. So in Nmap, the -O option is used to perform OS discovery, providing OS details on the target machine. You can see that Nmap -O, and then you have the IP address that they're scanning. And as you can see down there, it gives you, you have your MAC address, device type, what operating system is running, and all that information as well. Unicorn scan, the OS of the target machine can be identified by observing the TTL value in the acquired scan, and you see there's your TTL that's got circled down there on there that are these right here in that red table. OS discovery using Nmap script engine. So Nmap script engine, or NSE, can be used to automate a wide variety of networking tasks by allowing the users to write and share scripts. Attackers use various scripts in the Nmap script engine to perform OS discovery on the target machine. For example, an Nmap SMB OS discovery is an inbuilt script that can be used for collecting OS information on the target machine through the SMB protocol. In ZenMap, the SC option or script option is used to activate the NSE scripts. So over here is Nmap, and you can see that they have the script, and then they have that SMB, and then they have the IP address of what they want that run against. And then you have the information dumped out there below it. OS discovery using IPv6 fingerprinting. IPv6 fingerprinting can be used to identify the OS running on the target machine. IPv6 fingerprinting has the same functionality as IPv4. The difference between them is that IPv6 uses several additional advanced probes specific to IPv6, along with a separate OS detection engine that is specialized for IPv6. And that's that -6 option. So in ZenMap, it's -6 and -0 are used to perform OS discovery option for the IPv6 fingerprinting method. So you can see that nmap 6-0 and then your target IP address. Okay, IDS firewall evasion techniques. Through firewalls and IDS, firewalls and IDS can prevent malicious traffic or packets from entering a network. Attackers can manage to send intended packets to the target by evading an IDS or firewall through the following techniques: packet fragmentation, source routing, source port manipulation, IP address decoy, IP address spoofing, MAC address spoofing, creating custom packets, randomizing host order and sending bad checksums, proxy servers, and anonymizers. So let's start with packet fragmentation. So packet fragmentation refers to the splitting of a probe packet into several smaller packets or fragments while sending it to a network. It's not a new scanning method, but a modification of previous techniques. The TCP header is split into several packets, so the packet filters are not able to detect what the packets are intended to do. So that way, it's not the pattern that it's looking for is not all there. As the packet travels, so there's source routing. As the packet travels through the nodes in the network, each router examines the destination IP address and chooses the next hop to direct the packet to the destination. Source routing refers to sending a packet to the intended destination with a partially or completely specified route without firewall IDS configured routers in order to evade an IDS or firewall. In source routing, the attacker makes some or all of these decisions on the router. And then this figure, it says here, shows source routing where the originator dictates the eventual route of the traffic. So they route it around your firewall. That's why it's called source routing. Source port manipulation. Source port manipulation refers to manipulating actual port numbers with common port numbers in order to evade an IDS or firewall. This occurs when a firewall is configured to allow packets from well-known ports like HTTP, DNS, FTP, etc. Nmap uses the -G or source port options to perform source port manipulation. So you can see here, firewall allowing manipulated port 80 to the victim from the attacker. You can see actual port 242, manipulated port 80. So it blocks 242, but it allows port 80. And you can see in ZenMap right down here that it shows that. IP address decoy. IP address decoy technique refers to generating or manually specifying the IP addresses of decoys in order to evade an IDS or firewall. It appears to the target that the decoys, as well as the hosts, are scanning the network. This technique makes it difficult for the IDS or firewall to determine which IP address was actually scanning the network and which IP addresses were decoys. So decoy scanning with Nmap, you have two options. The -D RDN or RND10, and then the target generates a random number of decoys. And then there's -D, and then you have decoy 1, 2, 3, etc. And that one manually specifies IP address of your decoys. IP address spoofing, we've kind of talked about this one quite a bit. IP address spoofing refers to changing the source IP address so the attacker appears to be coming from someone else. When the victim replies to the address, it goes back to the spoofed address rather than the attacker's real address. Attackers modify the address information in the IP packet header and source address bits field in order to bypass the IDS or firewall. And this is HPing that they're using for spoofing. And you can see their website -A, and then they're using these as examples. And there's a note on here: you will not be able to complete the three-way handshake and open a successful TCP connection with a spoofed IP address. So that's just saying when there's a spoofed IP address, you can't do a successful three-way handshake. MAC address spoofing. The MAC address spoofing technique involves spoofing a MAC address with the MAC address of a legitimate user on the network. The attack uses --spoof MAC and nmac option to set specific MAC address for the packets to evade firewalls. So you can see over here you have nmap, and then stpn spoof, and then they have spoof MAC 0, and then they're showing this is the one that we want to use, and then they're doing that over there on the right. Now, I think they'll probably go over this in evasion, but there are a lot easier ways to get around spoofed MACs with MAC filtering. So MAC filtering, not necessarily. It depends on how. The question is, if you spoof a MAC, do you have to also spoof the IP? It depends on how the network is set up. Some networks will block or error the minute you have two of the same thing. Some of them, if they're very poorly set up, don't. So it just depends on how well it's been set up. Creating custom packets. You can use packet crafting tools from these. You create custom TCP packets using packet crafting tools like Colasoft Packet Builder, NetScan Tools Pro, etc., and use those to scan a target beyond the firewall. And this is Colasoft Packet Builder that they're using. Randomizing host order and sending bad checksums. So attackers scan the number of hosts in the target network in random order to scan an intended target that's behind the firewall, and this is nmap. And then sending bad checksums. The attacker sends packets with bad or bogus TCP UPD checksums to the intended target to avoid certain firewall rule sets. Proxy servers. Now these are used frequently. NOKey. And if you do anything where you're working with teenagers, this is something script kiddies like to use. A proxy server is an application that can serve as an intermediary for connecting with other computers to use the actual source of a scan and to hide the actual source of a scan and evade certain IDS firewall restrictions, to mask the actual source of an attack by impersonating the fake source address of the proxy, to remotely access intranets or other website resources that are normally restricted, to interrupt all requests sent by a user and transmit them to a third destination, such that the victims can only identify proxy server address, to chain multiple proxy servers to avoid detection. Note, a search in Google will list thousands of free proxy servers, and there are tons of them out there. It depends on what tools you're using and how many hops they use, and you have to use, you can use things like traceroute and different things like that, but a lot of the time you can only get so far through, and if they're using proxy inside your network, and it can be a mess. User requests a resource. So this is proxy chaining. Users request a resource from the destination. Proxy client at the user system connects to a proxy server and passes the request to proxy server. Proxy server strips users' identification information and passes the request to next proxy server, and then it's repeated by all the servers in the chain. At the end, the unencrypted request is passed to the web server, and you can see the little graphic down there on the bottom. Proxy tools. Proxy switcher allows you to surf anonymously on the internet without disclosing your IP address. CyberGhost VPN hides your IP and replaces it with one of your choice. And, you know, pretty much all of us know a bunch of the other ones there. And Burp Suite and Tor and CC Proxy and some other ones are listed on the bottom there. Anonymizers. An anonymizer removes all identity information from the user's computer while the user surfs the internet. Anonymizers make activity on the internet untraceable. Okay, I'm going to put a caveat here because I think that it is dangerous for people to think they are 100% untraceable. You don't know that you are. It's surprising the things that can be traced back to you. So don't assume that you are ironclad, because there were a lot of people. That's how they took down Silk Roads. I don't know if you guys remember that, but that was run on the dark web, and it was run through Tor routers, and it was supposed to be ironclad, and it got taken out pretty hard. So exactly. So never assume that your technology is foolproof. Never assume that you are 100% untraceable. So it's just like assuming that, you know, that your whatever it is patched or anything like that. It's the same thing here. Never assume. Anonymizers allow you to bypass internet censors. Why would you use these? Privacy and anonymity, protection against online attacks, access restricted content, bypass IDS and firewall rules. Unix is a desktop operating system designed for advanced security and privacy. And that one's just an example. A lot of times you'll see anonymizers used in countries that have severe censorship laws. Proxies and anonymizers are used together in places like that. And then you also have other censorship circumvention tools like this. Alcacer, which is a cross-platform, open source, robust website censorship, if I can get all the words out, circumvention tool that also maps censorship patterns around the world. Tails is a live operating system that users can start on any computer from a DVD, USB stick, or SD cards. I think we talked about Tails a little in Discord, and we were reading the Little Brother book. And yep, there it is right there. And I highly suggest that you know your censorship laws, because I am 100% against censorship, but that's just, I have always been that way. I am a firm believer in separation of church and state and all that, but you know, everybody has their own beliefs. But being in cybersecurity has also allowed me to see things too. Ping sweep countermeasures. Okay, we're going to go into countermeasures now. Configure firewalls to detect and prevent ping sweep attempts instantaneously. Use intrusion detection systems and intrusion prevention systems. It's a good idea to use IDS and IPS together because one, they don't, used individually, they just don't cover enough. Snort you can use to detect and prevent ping sweep attempts. You can carefully evaluate the type of ICMP traffic flowing through enterprise networks. Terminate the connection with any host sending more than 10 ICMP echo requests. There are rules that you can set in firewalls and networks, just like, you know, with the lockouts for so many password attempts. You can do that with things like this. Use a DMZ and allow only commands such as ICMP echo, reply, host unreachable, and time exceeded in the DMZ. Limit ICMP traffic with access control lists and the ISP's specific IP addresses. Port scanning countermeasures. Configure firewall and IDS rules to detect and block probes. Use a custom rule set, sorry, went the wrong direction. Run port scanning tools against hosts on the network to determine whether the firewall properly detects port scanning activity. Ensure that the mechanisms used for routing and filtering at the routers and firewalls respectively cannot be bypassed using a particular source port or source routing method. Ensure the router IDS and firewall firmware are updated to their latest release or version. Use a custom rule set to lock down the network and block unwanted ports at the firewall. Filter all ICMP messages, i.e. inbound ICMP message types and outbound ICMP message type 3 unreachable messages at firewalls and routers. Perform TCP and UDP scanning along with ICMP probes against your organization's IP address space to check the network configuration and its available ports. Ensure that anti-scanning and anti-spoofing rules are properly configured. That's why it's a good idea to have periodic firewall auditing, because I don't know if you remember me talking about how firewall rules go in order of ascension, and it's possible that someone may add a rule and move it up that might knock something further down the list out. So it's possible that you may have one that's a really good rule that got moved to the wrong spot, or you might have something that's causing problems. So it's a good idea that you keep if you have more than one person accessing these, that you have a good team that communicates and that you periodically audit this. Banner grabbing countermeasures. Disabling or changing banner. Disable false banners to mislead, display false banners to mislead or deceive attackers. That was actually a pretty good one to use. Turn off unnecessary services on the network host to limit the disclosure of information. Anybody who's doing web app development should be doing this. Use server masking tools to disable or change banner information. For Apache 2x with the mod headers module, use the directive httpd conf file to change the banner information header and set the server as new server name. Alternatively, change the server signature line to server signature off in the http conf file. So there are configuration files, that's what they are. And there are things in there that you can change, not just on the headers, but there are error message things for that too. Hiding file extension from web pages. File extensions reveal information about underlying server technology that attackers can utilize to launch attacks. Hide file extensions to mask web technologies. Replace application mappings such as .asp with .htm or FOO or etc. to disguise the identities of the servers. Apache users can use mod negotiation directives. IIS users can use tools like Page Exchanger to manage file extensions. It's preferable to not use file extensions at all. IP spoofing detection techniques. Direct TTL probes. Send a packet to the host of a suspected spoof packet that triggers a reply to compare TTL with the suspected packet. If the TTL reply is not the same as the packet being checked, this implies that it's a spoof packet. This technique is successful when the attacker is in a different subnet from the victim. So this is showing, you see the TTL 13 and then 25. It's just showing that there. And you can automate this so that if it shows a discrepancy, it boots. Sometimes you can do this and it will boot both of them off and requires that user that was having issues to contact their administrator so you can check their system. IP spoofing detection techniques, IP identification number. Send a probe to the host of a suspected spoof traffic trigger. Reply as compare the IP ID with suspect traffic. If the IP IDs are not close in value, the packet being checked, then the suspected traffic is spoofed. This technique is considered reliable even if the attacker is on the same subnet. So you can see the top one is 2586 and the other one is 515, and that's a big difference. TCP flow control method. Attackers are sending spoofed TCP packets will not receive the target's SYNAP packets. So remember how they said that you can't do the three-way handshake? This one here. Therefore, attackers cannot respond to a change in the congestion window size. When received traffic continues after window size is exhausted, the packets are most likely spoofed. Here are some countermeasures. Encrypt all the network traffic using cryptographic network protocols like IPsec, TLS, SSH, and HTTPS. Use multiple firewalls to provide multi-layered depth of protection. We're seeing now, because it used to be you'd get an appliance or you get an application, and now you're seeing people using a combination of both the hard appliance and an application for the multiple firewall. Do not rely on IP-based authentication. Use random initial sequence number to prevent IP spoofing attacks based on sequence number spoofing. Ingress filtering. Use routers and firewalls at your network perimeter to filter incoming packets that appear to come from internal IP addresses. Egress filtering. Filter all outgoing packets with an invalid local IP address as the source address. Now, a lot of these are just best practice things that you will see already set up. Scanning detection and prevention tools. Extra Hop provides complete visibility, real-time detection, and intelligent response to malicious network scanning. And this has a nice little map here. And then you have a couple of different ones out there on the side that you can also use. And I think that's it for this. That's it for this module. So that ends the lecture portion. So let me stop the recording.